Started, please. First of all, good evening and welcome to our December meeting. Just happens to be on December 1st, but it's okay. So on behalf of myself and the town board, Merry Christmas a little early. We have a full agenda tonight, but hopefully it's not a complicated one. So, Town Clerk Greer, would you please take roll call?
Here. Michael Farrar.
Here.
Dave Douglas.
Here.
Steve Churchill.
Here.
Tom Dyson. Here.
Here. Thank you. Would you please stand for the pledge? Take a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get started, I just hopefully keep reminding people to stay as safe as possible. Things are not getting better. Keep your mask on and keep your distance. I got a report from the county tonight that I think our 7-day average is 4.6%. So I'm pretty sure something's going to kick in here for Seneca County. It'll depend on other counties in our area that are the same size. But if it's 4.6, that's the 4% is the magical number where we go to a different color, which is yellow. And when you go to yellow, there'll be a lot more restrictions. So hopefully it's an average of other counties, as I said, that are the same size, population-wise. So hopefully those counties have a 4% rolling average for 7 days straight. That'll be the determining factor. Stay safe, please. And at the end of our agenda tonight, it's not on there, but we will discuss about January as far as meetings. See if we're going to still stay public or go back to where we were in the spring with the meetings. Okay. We have two petitioners tonight. First up is Mr. Kutterfer talking about SMI's operating permit. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
Just a little cold. How are you?
Let me get used to it.
Bear with me. Bear with me. Okay, I appreciate your patience. Good evening, Supervisor Ferrara and members of the town board. On November 13th, Bonadent hosted a renowned international dental lecturer, Dr. Miguel Ortiz. He's a graduate of Harvard School of Dental Medicine and resident in Boston. Dr. Ortiz, along with 15 dentists from the Northeast team, and stayed in Seneca Falls to further their dental knowledge while educating some key Bonadent team members. Dr. Ortiz's work in the field of dentistry has earned him highly esteemed credentials and, most importantly, over 200,000 followers on social media. He arrived with his entire family on Thursday evening, November 12th. While unpacking his vehicle to set up for the event, his family was overwhelmed by one of the worst nights of horrible odor from Seneca Meadows landfill. So much he approached our company president late that evening for some assurance that the attendees would not be subject to the odor throughout the lecture. Mr. Bonafiglia, a bit embarrassed, asked if Dr. Ortiz would share his thoughts on the town and the effect it had on his family and his impression of our community. Dr. Ortiz had nothing but nice things to say about the people in the hotel the local restaurant, and the beauty of the Finger Lakes. But he also had this to say, and we think it's important for the board to see.
Dr. Miguel Ortiz, I come from Boston. It's my first time here at Seneca Falls. I brought my kids, 3 of them, and my wife. We're invited by one of them to the laboratories to come and teach important things about our field. However, I could not stop noticing when I landed here that it's thick. Like it really stunk. It was smellless. And so I started asking people, what is it? And they told me, well, you know, there's a dump. It's been here for a while. And I'm like, you guys get this every day? And I was like, well, you know, a couple of times a week, or maybe 3 times a week. Today it's actually not that bad. And then to me, it was horrible. So what it made me think is, when I go back home, or when I tell colleagues about Seneca Falls, the first thing that comes to mind. They're always Seneca Falls. I'm like, hey, what's the problem? It's not. So I felt sad that I had to have bad impression on how the air quality was, and it had to make me tell my friends, like, yeah, if you're driving by and stuff, right? Because that's probably what I would say. If you're driving by, don't stand with the stink.
So that statement stuck with us. It was okay, but it stunk. If you're driving by, don't stop because it stinks. He didn't even feel comfortable letting his children play outside. When he left on Saturday evening on the 14th, the bad odor had resurfaced and continued to involve the air. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of Bruce Bonaciglia and Bonadent because Seneca Meadows landfill's inability to control their odor is a significant issue that not only negatively impacts our businesses, but is harmful to the businesses that rely on tourism as well. I urge you to take Dr. Ortiz's comments seriously and to hold Seneca Meadows accountable for their odor issues by continuing to deny their operating permit and by bringing their continued violations to the attention of the Department of Environmental Conservation. Thank you.
Thank you. And our second petitioner, Mrs. Allison Stokes. He's here. He's sitting right here.
My name is Allison Stokes. I'm here tonight for my apartment in Rochester. My home is on West Baird Street. I last spoke to the town board in March, and you heard me speak often about Seneca Meadows. And I looked at the agenda for tonight, and it seems that in some way or another, Seneca Meadows looms in many of our town issues. And tonight I want to speak based on the article that was in the newspaper Finger Lakes Times yesterday, Monday the 30th, with the headline, Poor Sewer Line Options. I'm going to make 3 main points. First, I wanted to point to an error where, in mentioning the Ludovico Sculptural Trail, it says this was first explored about 2 years ago. Well, I want to correct that sense of 2 years ago, because this is the Baird Street and the Sculpture Trail has been on the table for a long time. I was first aware of it in my home in 2014 when they were talking about putting this new sewer line, replacing the sewer line on Baird Street for Del Lago. And that was 6 years ago. And then it was in January of 2017 where the eminent domain first came up. I was in Virginia visiting my son and his family, and this was surprise news. I drove home from Virginia to be at that town board meeting in January 2017 when they were discussing eminent domain. And then the first, and as a matter of fact, I have files on all of this. And there was a public hearing on eminent domain in 2017, and I gave a long statement then. But then, as we know, it was 2018 when we did have a public hearing on eminent domain. And most of us are aware of the things that have happened, but it's been at least 4 years. This sewer line issue has been going on for a long time. In 2014, I met at the St. Patrick's School with the supervisor at the time and Mr. Condino from Barton and Lujus, and we talked for about 45 minutes then. So this has been hanging fire for a while. The second point is that the Lodovico Sculpture Trail is often mentioned referred to as private property, and with owners that need to have discussion with the owners of this private property. Well, I want to correct that because the Lodovico Sculpture Trail is a non-profit organization that has tax-exempt status because it's a public good. We don't talk about the Hall of Fame as being private property and its owners, and we should stop talking about the Lodovico Sculpture Trail as private property. It's a non-profit organization that has a board, it has 4 officers, it has members of the board. They meet and make decisions. I'm secretary of the board, and I've been keeping files on this property for years, and they fill a whole file box. And I think we are well aware with this COVID-19 and masks and social distancing that the trail has become a special asset to the town as many, many people are walking the trail, walking their dogs on the trail. It's gotten more and more use during this time. And it's not just a sculpture trail, it's a nature trail. People say again and again when they come off the trail, it's like being in a different world. You forget you're in the middle of Seneca Falls. It's nature. That one section from the little bridge where the great opening is with the Gould's pump sculpture, and you go down that narrow trail to Sucker Brook, and you feel like you're in a different world altogether, and that's, of course, where the endangered species are. So the next point, the last point, the third point I want to make about the trail is that it seems to me that Barton and Lujus has an exclusive hold on the facts about this trail and the facts that are presented to the public. 4 sewer line options. These came up as the presentation was made a week ago. This came out on the 30th of December. It was on the Monday the 23rd that the 4 options were presented for the very first time. I've been following this closely because my home is on the south side of West New York. And this is the first time on the 23rd that there's been mention of the south side, a cheaper and less expensive version of taking the trail down the north side. But this is the first we've heard of it, and Barton and Lujus has been on this for all these years. They're only engineering firm on it. And this is because they've had to have no competitive bidder. And I think this is plain wrong. Every one of these 4 options is at least $2 million. How many people would want to be part of an organization that's going to make a $2 million expenditure when you haven't had quotes, bids from others? It's plain wrong. Why does Burton and Lewis have a hold on this? It's not fair. It's not right. What kind of facts would come up if another engineering firm was looking at it, making the bids for the same work? Well, Sheila Shalfo, the lawyer for the trail, hired an independent engineer. And in her appeal in June 2018, after the board voted in May 2018 to take the trail 20-foot easement down the trail, she appealed that, and she personally hired an independent engineer. And what I've given to you in your packets is first the board list. Secondly, an explanation of the expenses in a timeline in 2018, 2019, and questions for 2020. And then the independent engineer's observation of both the trail and West Barrett Street. I was with him when he was taking all these measurements. And his report challenges the report of Barton Lewis. And I think it's partly through his report that we now have the south side option, which is less expensive than the north side option. But West Barrett Street hasn't changed. The south side option was always there, but we never heard about it. They they presented the most expensive way of going down Barrett Street and compared that with going down the trail. And to me, what's most offensive is that the understanding is that it's easier to go down the trail and it's cheaper. And this independent report challenges that.
Okay, Allison, we're still on
Okay.
Okay, just before you sit down, I appreciate you coming to a couple things, okay? On the 23rd, that was an informational meeting for new board members and to older board members to revisit the whole thing because it's been on the back burner for quite a while, okay?
That's
So
good.
that's all that was. Excuse me. Hang on 1 second, okay? There's also some other things that were discussed. Some board members had some suggestions about an alternative route on some property and so forth that we're looking into, okay? B&L just did what we asked them to do, present the various options and some of the history. As you can see, there's no press here. So what David Shaw wrote in the Finger Lakes Times, I have no control over that, okay? He's not here. He has not been here for the last 9 months. Nobody from the Finger Lakes Times comes. They are short-staffed. David covers all the issues going on in Geneva. David calls me up and says what was talking about. I tell him, and then he fills in the rest, okay? So the board has no control over what's being put in the paper. I don't read the paper, so I don't know what's in there, but by the sounds of what you're saying, it's not accurate based on the actual reading, okay? B&L did what we asked them to do. When the project comes to, when the board makes a decision, okay, as to what they're going to be doing, there'll be competitive bids for the project. Okay?
There will be.
There will be.
That is important. And
Well,
that information,
as a board, we've been talking about this all year, and if B&L was here, Peter was wanting to get up and speak, he's not going to do that. I think Peter would encourage us to get competitive bids. So I don't think that's, it's not going to be an automatic thing that it's going to be done that way, okay?
it's unfortunate that that kind of message hasn't been out, since March. Because March
human way, honestly. Has not been discussed at all. Okay? We start discussing it probably, I don't know, September or August, just to say that we needed to get an update to bring people up to speed as to where we're going. Okay? And if the Ludovico Trail people are not interested in sitting down, I have reached out to Liz. If she's not interested in sitting down and listening to revisit the option, okay, that's fine. It's not going to happen. Okay? As I said to you, I think we said back in January or February, eminent domain has gone away. Okay? Nobody on this board, I don't think, supports eminent domain, even though I think we win the case in a heartbeat. Only my personal opinion, and I think that's best for the taxpayers of Seneca Falls. That's my own personal opinion. Don't blame these people. That's me personally. Okay? But we agree that eminent domain is not an option. And if the trail, the non-for-profit trail committee is not interested, gone. Not an option. Okay?
This has been such a source of stress for so many years, and yes, they're absolutely not interested in revisiting.
Relax,
It is a-
breathe, everything's good.
And I'm trying to say, this is a board decision. This is
Absolutely.
not a Liz decision, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. This is a board decision.
Your board, you mean?
No, the Lettuce Depot Sculpture Board.
Right, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And just like it'll be a board decision, how we move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, stay healthy.
All right, you too.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Good evening, whatever. Okay, we have a motion to approve budget workshop minutes from October 26th. And discussion, all in favor? I make a motion that we accept the public hearing meetings from November 5th. Have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? And I make a motion we accept the special meeting of November 13th, 2020. Have a second, please? Thank you, Don. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Thank you. I make a motion that we accept the dog control report. Everyone's received the various department reports. Any discussions on dog control? Can I have a second for dog control, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Make a motion that we accept the zoning officer's report that we don't have, right? Because we don't have a zoning officer, do we? I'm sorry, there it is. I ducked it in there. Sorry, Jim. Zoning officer's report, can I have a second for that, please? Thank you. Any discussion there? Again, I want to thank Kim Rose, who's been filling in kind of a little bit part-time, and half of her day been trying to cover the office as much as she possibly can. In Dean's absence, and then the other half she's in the assessor's office. So, Kim, thank you so much for all your help and stepping forward. Greatly appreciate it. If you have any issues, don't call me, okay? All right, all in favor of that report, please say aye. Thank you. Have a motion to, Councilman Dyson, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Dyson.
I make a motion that we accept the park and recreation report.
Second. Jim, anything to add other than what you have there?
No, just let you know that we are going to be proactive as best as possible. We're going to do a registration for basketball, so that at least when and if we won't need another 2 to 3 weeks to put it together, we'll get it ready to go. And if we have to cancel, but we've got all winter, and we hope at some point we can do something. So we're going to register it now, get it done by the holidays, put it together, and then we'll see where we're at. So we're going to try to have some normalcy as best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So passed. Councilman Avery?
Move we accept the monthly report of the Seneca Falls Highway Department.
Second that. Any discussion? Jim, anything to add?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, I know you got a couple of resolutions coming down later on.
There,
All's quiet, you're doing a great job. The highway department's doing a great job on the snow removal so far. Keep it up. All right.
Christmas decorations look nice.
Yeah. And if you've done something different this year than last year about hooking the plows up or something, keep up the good work. Okay? Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. So carried. Councilman Churchill, assessor, please.
Yes, I'd like to move that we accept the assessor report as presented.
And I'll second that. Discussion. Councilman Churchill, Councilwoman Dyson, did you have a chance to sit down with Debbie about reavals?
I talked to Debbie last week, and she said when she gets back, we'll talk to her.
Okay. All right. I think we really need to start that process if we're going to go ahead and do the reavals. You guys got to come back with a recommendation to the rest of the board if we're going to proceed, because it's a 2-year process. Okay, and it's an investment on our part as far as the person that actually does the reevaluation. So something that we need to get going in 2021. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Attorney Morrell, anything from the good side of Fall Street?
Well, there's other matters that are going to pop up on the agenda. Nothing that's not on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Avery, water and sewer.
Make a motion that we accept the monthly report from the Seneca Water and Sewer Department.
I second that. Joe, anything special on your end? All quiet? Water's flowing? Toilets are flushing? Okay. Any further discussion?
Just for the information of the public, the water towers were both inspected, and they did very well. And Department of Health has approved the pH adjustment project, we've been working on for some time.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Councilman Deleuze, Town Justice Report.
Said it was reported, talked to the new judge coming in. He's doing online 8 hours a day, 5 days.
Any further discussions? So the new judge, Steve, thank you so much. Steve Kelly, as Dave said, is taking courses, obviously, as far as the requirement. He's been coming in actually to the building and doing some paperwork as well. So hopefully he'll be all set and ready to go. And I know the courts, I think, Dave, I don't know if you saw that or not, but the courts got some new restrictions handed down by the 7th Circuit Court about the actual, when they're open, when they're not. And so we're kind of reverting back to the spring. Okay, all in favor of the court report, please say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Councilman Velez, police, public works report, please.
Accept the report that was in, talking about parking ticket issue. And the first year we were back, some system, but
Chief, anything to add? I second that. Chief, anything to add?
Yeah, a couple highlights. November 16th, the week of November 16th, 5 more members of the Seneca Falls Police Department attended a 40-hour training in crisis intervention team. And that focuses on recognizing and identifying those with mental health issues, de-escalation, communication skills, a lot of what has been needed to be done for a long time. We now have 11 of our officers certified in this crisis intervention team. So our goal is at some point to have every single member of the police department certified in that. Secondly, I'd like to bring up that we are having our 5th annual Fill the Cruiser toy drive this year. Obviously different than last. We're not going to have a meet and greet. We're not obviously having It's a Wonderful Life weekend. We have 5 different drop-off locations: the Seneca Falls Police Department, Walmart, Tractor Supply, Generations Bank, and Century 21. We are collecting these toys until about a week before Christmas. There's a deadline, I think it's the 13th, but we got a little bit of wiggle room, but we have to get these toys to Department of Social Services, where they will distribute them out to needy families in Seneca County. So if you can donate, please do.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So carried. I make a motion, we accept the MRB, I make a motion, we accept the B&L report for the month of November. Second, please. Thank you. Peter, anything?
Just, I added as a follow-up to our meeting last week, I did add a couple options were requested, so read it. In the back of it, there's a sketch kind of shows some configurations. You know, something we can look at. I think it's a conversation offline with the board to see if they want to pursue an alternative configuration. One like potential promising, with the quarter two tax value. So nothing's easy with this project.
My game plan, Peter, and the rest of the board is that it'll be a discussion item in January as we start the 2021 season. And I don't know exactly how that'll play out, but you know, I would strongly recommend to the board members that you know, you be prepared to start making some decisions. I encourage you to reach out to Peter if you have any questions, and you know, so that we can start having a discussion about. Okay. Thanks, Peter. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So carried. I make a motion that we accept the MRB grant writing services report for the month of November. I need a second, please. Thank you. Emily, anything to add?
Well, some grants have come out, which is interesting from the state. So it looks like the money's starting to shaking the trees just a little bit. One in particular, which the town wanted to move forward on, is a New York Main Street grant. So we'll continue working on that. And also, I know that we helped with the clerk's office a little bit, making sure there was the retention schedule resolution, and then working with the chief a little bit on SAM registration, which the town needs to have in order to be in great standing for all its grants and to let the money flow. So keep trying.
Thank you.
Yep.
Main Street grants came out, you said, right?
Yes.
And Emily is going to hook up with Joelle and have a discussion about some things for Main Street and via the development committee. So hopefully we can, you know, in addition to the DRI, back when things were somewhat normal, it was a very good thing if we were a DRI candidate, put us in a better position for a Main Street grant. So hopefully Emily can work on that. Our records retention, as Emily mentioned, is the rules have changed, so to speak, and that's why there's a resolution in here later on to adopt that procedure. We started a little bit with the records retention with the help of Park and Recreation. We kind of separated all the all the old village documents from the old, the old and current town documents. Okay, all the documents are in our records storage area, so we just separated the boxes. And the old village is on one side. Okay, and then our next step, once we can get a better handle on what can stay and what can't stay, or what can be retained and not. My secretary will be working with Town Clerk Greer, and we'll be starting going through the boxes to say, okay, the 6 years have passed, or the 5 years have passed, or whatever, we can discard that and go from there. Once we have a handle on what we have, then Emily can write a grant to specifically earmark what we want to do. And ultimately, our goal would be to put everything on
Electronic.
Put it on electronic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, our goal. And then once we get things cleaned out, I would like to get the court records, because there are many court records currently on the Highway Department building on Oak Street that probably shouldn't be there, okay? And I'd like to get them over to the records office where everything else is. And that would mean probably doing some petitioning there, like in the police department has a section of the records office petitioned out for police records only. And they they're the only ones that have access to it. Okay? Something similar should be done for the courts. Okay? And once we get rid of stuff, there'll be enough room there to do that. Okay? So that's our game plan moving forward here in the next 5-6 months. Okay? Okay. Thank you, Emily. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Councilman Avery, Seneca Falls Development Corporation.
So there's nothing to approve of. So say a couple of things that came to mind. You may not know that the SFDC, the farmers market was run under their office. So they have a very, very successful season. Ran a couple of extra weeks in October, and we're looking to do that again. The Welcome to Seneca Falls signs, there are 4 of them, are plain by comparison to other communities. So you may have noticed that there's a farmer's market banner across underneath of the Welcome to Seneca Falls. That's the SFPC that's doing that too. There will be 3 permanent ones. One will be obviously birthplace of women's rights. One will be inspiration behind It's a Wonderful Life. And then the 3rd permanent one will be that Seneca Falls is a Purple Heart community. And that will leave room on the bottom for seasonal things, events that come and go. If organizations want to take responsibility for that, work through the SFDC, and like the farmers market, that one actually should probably be gone by now. Well, we'll show up again next spring, fall, and other events will come and go. But the big 3, Purple Heart, Wonderful Life, and Women's Rights, those will be permanent additions to those signs of the development corporation. Other than that, it's been pretty much a quiet month. Like I said, we're still waiting under the RI. This is completely out of our control. I hate to say that, want that, want that, want that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Avery. Okay. Councilman Avery, you want to give anything up on the Waste Management Committee?
We've been looking at how to create a program where we can start to remove organic waste, which is mostly food scraps, from the garbage chain, and how we might do that. So we just had some very, very preliminary conversations with Jim about perhaps, and we just heard about this yesterday, perhaps having a place behind the town garage where residents can take their brush and so on, and other things that they dispose of, where we might have a small place where people would put their organic waste. And then we talked with a person, an entrepreneur in Geneva about the program he's running there, and we've also started to reach out to some of the people that he works with that actually haul it from point A to point B. So the plan right now, since there's nothing formal that's being done at the county level or anything like that, this would be our own little plan, would be that we would have a drop-off place. We would probably somehow get to containers, and then from that drop-off place, we can either dump it and take it away to some place where it's being turned into compost. It's very, 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 very sketchy at this point. But those are the pieces, and that's primarily what we're working on.
Gail, is the Seneca Falls environmental group still active or still organized?
Yes.
Okay, I really would like to, at some point, sooner or later, try to get the environmental group involved. There's all kinds of environmental things that we have to really put our hands around. There's waste dispensers that we can put downtown that, like a trash compactor. It's taking an investment, but if we're serious about reducing our footprint, there's all kinds of things that the environmental group can also get involved in. So, maybe we can talk and we can kind of hook up sometime and maybe have like a side committee kind of thing. A couple of people from that committee, a couple of people from waste management,
that's required by the DEC, and you see we've gotten nowhere with that as well. So maybe if we could start on the town level, that'd be great.
Great. Thank you. In the last committee, I'll report on is well, why don't you report on the last committee? That would be the Citizen Advisory Board on looking into the feasibility of the town manager.
We had a meeting and we went out in person. We're doing the pros and cons of having town administrator or town manager. And we all have different opinions and we want more information. And we've had people come and talk to us. We've watched videos from people from Canandaigua, people from all over. So it's very interesting.
That group, I believe, meets again on December 10th at 5 o'clock here. And again, all those meetings are open to the public. Jerry Macaluso is the facilitator, and there's 14 people in that group. So they are still working through in different scenarios and so forth. And their game plan was hopefully by February to come back to the board with some type of a recommendation. Okay. Can I have a motion, please, to accept communications to the town for the month of November? Thank you. Pretty self-explanatory. Any questions? All in favor of communications, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Under old business for the evening, sale of surplus property. I can pretty much assure that there's been no movement on State Street. Again, that is contingent upon the DRI. I can give you a little bit of an update on 115. There's been an inspector's report there by the buyer. They came back to Pat and I today with about 6 or 7 things. Pat and I haven't had a chance to talk today, but I'm not sure where that's going to go. I think a lot of the things that are on there are not the town's responsibility. It's the condo, the whole entire people that own the condo type of thing. There's some plumbing issues that certainly the town would address, but structural things or floor joists or things like that, probably, I mean, that's not something that we're going to get involved in because that's not our responsibility. So Pat and I need to talk and see where that goes so Pat can get back to the realtor and the buyer's lawyer, but it's not done yet. Okay, that's all I can say. It's not done yet. Like any property, it's not done yet. Okay. Town demands related to the SMI license to operate landfill. Any progress there?
Yes. As you know, myself, Mr. Avery, and Attorney Morrell have been meeting several times over the past few months. We formulated a letter with essentially 2 requests, which we got approval from the board this past September to submit that letter to Senator Meadows, and I'm happy to report that that letter was sent today.
Okay. And is there some type of it's just the anticipation of some response from SNI, or an invitation to sit down and talk, or just some type of response?
No, it asked for a response, and I expect that we'll be in contact with them in the coming weeks and see where it goes.
But it's attorney to attorney.
Yes.
Great.
Our attorney to their attorney.
Okay.
And then also the DEC is copied in.
I'm sorry.
The DEC is copied in on the board.
Okay, great. Great. Okay. I have nothing new to report about Barrett Street. As I reported last month, I've reached out to Canal Corp again, and I've had a discussion with their engineers, but they have not gotten back to me. So no news is good news, I guess. It's still up. We don't have to talk about feasibility stuff. Kingdom Road sewer main line, as I said, we'll start going into longer discussions in January. Hopefully we can move forward with that. And old business, local law 5, 6, and 7, that's gonna be addressed in new business, right?
No.
Do whatever you want.
I don't know, you tell me.
It's your meeting. We can do it right now, brother.
Well, you're the only one getting paid here.
We can do it a couple hours from now.
I don't know.
I'll stick around.
All right. How about a break? No, I don't, so do it now, Beth?
Yeah, we got it in old business. It's
Okay.
to do with the agenda.
All right.
So this, you recall, we had our public meetings on these three laws back in October. And we had planned to act on it in November, but there had not been the county planning board review by November. So, I apologize, I was tied up at the beginning of the meeting, make sure I had enough copies for everybody for one of these. But in the interim, if everybody could take a look at the county planning board's review of these local laws, I think it's gives a good idea about what the town is trying to accomplish here.
I put those in the packet. I put the county reviews in.
Yeah, the county reviews are in everybody's packet. This is the, what I'm handing out now is it's a, top sheet is the resolution to adopt. But underneath that, and this is, the one I'm handing out is local law 7, 5 and 6 got to you earlier. But so each local law packet is the same. The top page is the resolution to adopt, but underneath that is the seeker forms, part 1, followed, and for each one, it's just some very brief information about what the local law is, and then question 1 says, is this the adoption of a local law or ordinance? And if so, provide some information about that, and skip to the end. So each of the seeker forms, it has number 1 is checked yes, the rest of it is blank, and then there's a copy of the text of the local law. And then after that, there's part 2 and 3 of the seeker form, which we will need to speak about for each of these. So this is all, and now that we've had our public hearing, now that we've had the county review, it's all properly before you. And since, while I was talking, hopefully you had a chance to take a look at the county's review. But let's start with number 5.
Well, just generally speaking, the county, the planning board has approved all 3.
Oh, yeah, they are recommending, yes, they did the review, they're recommending approval of all 3 of the laws. And number 5 is the open burning law. They didn't have a whole lot to say about that, and the law itself is largely taken a lot straight from the DEC language, and they're largely in control of that. Number 6 and 7, the county planning board reviewed them together, but they generally they did a fairly extensive review. This is the zoning amendments, one of which amends the definitions and basically allows for mixed use buildings. And then number 7 addresses parking and really reduces the minimum number of spaces required in order to get a building permit in all of our zones. But so generally, the county found that this was consistent with, it's consistent with the town's comprehensive plan of promoting, more residential use downtown, be able to have a mix of uses. We have commercial and then maybe residential on the upper floors, or more residential than we do now. Found that to be consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, but also consistent with some of the counties, the more regional outlook plans. And so that was addressed for both the mixed use and for the parking. Now, the parking, remains to be seen what the impact is going to be as far as, as addressed by the county. Is it going to attract people downtown, to live downtown, to have cars downtown, to need a place to park downtown? Or will the ability of people to live downtown, would that reduce the need to have as many cars as we generally do when we are living out, living out in the country? So in the interim, and these things take time to see how it's going to play out, but in the meantime, the town will most likely have some parking issues to address, which it sounds like we're going to be doing with the chief, but also, and the town has regularly been looking back behind the buildings, behind Fall Street, and if we can identify any other areas for public parking, I think we should continue down that road and continue to look at that. So, I would suggest that we start with local law number 5, with the packet there. The first page that's on there is a resolution to adopt. Unfortunately, that comes last. So, I want to ask you to turn to you have the secret forms, part 1. And again, it just you get to question number 1, and then it says to skip to the end. And then there's the text of the law. And this is only two pages, as you recall. It restricts and actually, frankly, open burning in New York State is very restrictive as it is. But this makes things more specific, and specifically in relation to requiring that there be some type of restriction on the fire, whether it be a fire pit, a fire cable, all the various things that you'll see at Lowe's and Tractor Supply and places like that. But we've discussed this at length at the public hearing. So after the text of the local law is the part 2 of the secret form. And this contains 11 areas, 11 questions that are meant to guide the town's inquiry into whether or not the action of adopting this local law would have any significant adverse environmental impacts. So you can see part 2. I've gone through the areas. I'm going to take a look at the 11 questions here, but I've gone through them, and I'm suggesting, so it gives you a choice between either no or small impact or moderate to large impact. From looking at the various questions, I'm hard pressed to find an area where there would be a moderate to large impact as a result of the adoption of this law. So I'm recommending that each of those boxes be noted as either no or small impact. So take a minute, take a look at it, and see if anybody has any particular issues with any of those areas.
So Pat, I'm assuming we make a motion on the resolution, get second, and then any discussion for each one of these right now?
No, I don't think we need to do it 11 times, but ultimately, this is really to guide the discussion.
No, I mean, as far as the local law number 5, if there's no issues on the secret, which I know you've done
Right.
multiples of them
Yeah.
throughout your career, and I don't think any of them have been
So there's
rejected.
going to be a formal motion and a vote on the
Each
secret.
individual one.
Yeah, and then the resolution to adopt after that. And that's the resolution is formally moved and voted on by itself.
So you need a motion to adopt or accept the secret report.
Yeah, I'm going to, there's another wrinkle in that this is considered an unlisted action. That just means that this board can act as the lead agency. We do not need to coordinate with any other agencies or anything like that. But there should be a motion to be the lead agency, and then a motion to make your finding of either a positive declaration or a negative declaration on whether or not there's the potential for adverse environmental impacts. So, again, just to guide things along here, the initial motion would be for the town board to act as the lead agency for the adoption of local law number 5.
Are you ready for that now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I move that we name the town of Seneca Falls as lead agency for the enactment of local law number 5.
I second that. Any discussion about the secret report and the cats filled out? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Any discussion about the town being the lead agency? I'm sorry. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. I'm going to make a motion that we accept the secret report for local law number 5 that's been completed, and we have in front of us. Have a second for that, please?
And I would just want to point out that in so doing, that the board would be making a finding that that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. So that's what the board will be voting on.
Any discussion? Okay, so all in favor, we accept the secret report for local law number 5 and kind of put this in the minutes, Nikki, so I can read it. Where do you get that language back?
It's right above the last page, right above the signature lines. There's a checkbox in there.
Okay. We have determined, based on the information analysis above and any supporting documentation, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. So I'm going to make a resolution that we authorize the adoption of town board of the town of Seneca Falls of local law number 5 of 2020. Have a second for that, please.
Second.
And if I could just ask, so and by making that motion, are you asking that this resolution be adopted?
Yeah.
So Nikki, you have the.
I'll put that in, yeah.
I don't, do you want me to read the
No,
resolution?
no, just
No.
as long as it shows up in the minutes. Okay.
Okay. Any discussion on local law number 5 resolution?
I have one thing I'd like to discuss. It was brought up at one point regarding the New York State Park and how they fall under this. And whether there should be an exclusion or...
Well, there generally doesn't need to be, in the sense that they have their own restrictions. And much of this language is the same. I mean, it was taken straight from the state's own requirements. So a lot of them are going to be consistent. But otherwise, they're going to be, they have their own police. They're typically going to handle things, and they have their own regulations, which are not very different than these. So I don't think there's going to be a conflict at all.
Well, I know you don't need to have, if you go to the park, you know, fire, but you don't have to put a screen over there to ride them. It's those kinds of things. But, I mean, who takes precedence, the town or the...
Well, if it's going to be in the park, I think we should refer to the park or
You don't think any language should be added to this?
I think it's fine as is.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. Okay. Local law number 6.
So now that you guys are good warmed up with procedure, I'll talk quite a bit less for this one, if that's okay. But it's the same setup. This law is a little bit more involved in the sense that it's 15 pages long. However, it's so long because it only addresses 2 sections. It's just that one of those sections is the definition section. And the definition section, it doesn't have subsections, it just has definitions. So to amend one of them in order to put the whole subsection and have it properly recorded with the state. This was the simplest way to do it. But the changes aren't as extensive as the 15 pages would lead you to believe. But the highlights of it, as we talked at the public hearing, are the inclusion of, well, and specifically a definition of multiple use units, multi-use units, and that's what it's called mixed use in the definition, and then that shows up again in well, at least the next section that is addressed is section 300-32, which has the minimum building area for units. And then it does allow multiple family dwelling units in existing mixed-use buildings or new mixed-use developments to have a minimum size of 600 feet, whereas in other circumstances it's 1,100 feet, which, given, as addressed in the county's review, they look at that as favorable, as though, 600 feet is a small unit, it's a small place, but, with the idea that we have a lot of old buildings, and this could help to maximize the use of the buildings where, sometimes that building is dictating how that space is going to be used and not used. And this was thought to be, to promote development in that way. So that's really, all those 15 pages, those are the major changes that are there. So again, we have the seeker forms. I'm going to tell you to skip to the end because it's a local law. And then taking a look at for the part 2 of the various potential impacts sort of associated with any action, but the form is designed to focus the town's important inquiry into these 11 areas. And well, first off, the first question is, does the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? Well, we are changing the zoning regulations. It is actually very consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and the other plans put forth by the county to specifically promote this type of mixed-use buildings, particularly in the downtown area. So there's no conflict. Actually, it's very consistent. And from there, again, it was difficult to imagine any circumstances where there would be a moderate or large impact. There may be either no impact or some impact if it does end up being, more use of some of these buildings. But I don't see it having a moderate or large impact that may occur from any of these. So if there's any particular of these 11 questions that the board would like to discuss, we should do so now. But otherwise, this would be the same procedure of a motion to act as a lead agency, and then a motion on the seeker itself, and then the resolution to adopt.
Do we have any idea how many buildings and spaces this would potentially impact by changing these?
Well, the first part is the existing buildings that would be impacted, and that's basically it's the C1 and the C2 areas. The C1 is the only place the C1 exists is downtown here. Okay, and it's you have a good sense of what downtown is here, but it does extend across the town. It brings that part in. And then C2 is basically along 520 and 414 heading north, and then actually 520 heading east towards Auburn. That's where our C2 areas, and those are the areas that designated C2 to try to promote commercial development in those areas. This is saying that they want to give people the ability to have mixed use. And mixed use is generally commercial on the bottom, and then some type of residential on the top, or on a not the main area. So the number of buildings, it's really the entire downtown. The entire downtown could be impacted by this. Several of those buildings already have residents, this type of use that we've discussed. It's just this would be a little less restrictive.
So were those properties granted variances in the past to accomplish?
Our zoning does allow for, currently, right now, without the adoption of this, it does allow, it's commercial on the bottom, and then the additional floors allow for, I believe it's one unit per story. And the minimum space required for that unit is 1,100 feet. So so any other uses do have variances. For instance, the old arcade building came before the board and obtained their variances. And from what I understand, that has been a good thing. That hasn't been overly dense. It hasn't had problems that you would have by a whole lot of people, living on top of each other. Just through the process, it was a long process, but through that process, it was restricted a bit, and so they didn't have as many units as they wanted, but they have more than the code allows. And I believe that's, from what I understand, it's always full. So it's a desirable setup for developers. It's a desirable setup for people who want to reside downtown. I believe they particularly cater to students, but this is the sort of thing that.
First, a lot of that has to do with landlords, right?
It has to do with landlords.
State Street, I think, from time to time hasn't been so fortunate.
Right.
And if you're talking about increasing the density, I mean, does that, when you talk about, we're talking about the seeker, will the proposed action have an impact, impair the character or quality of the existing community? I mean, that's a tough call to make.
Oh, yeah,
right?
it always is.
I mean, if you have high-end apartments, probably no problem. If you have a lot of high-density, low-end apartments, probably causing a problem.
Right. And part of it is an attempt. Well, it is promoting development, promoting people to invest in those types of buildings and give them an incentive to fix them up, two things like that, and not to rely too heavily on the arcade building, but that place looks great. They did a lot of work in there.
The local law 6 came out of the zoning committee after a long discussion and working with the planning board and the zoning to eliminate the fact that we're trying to enhance development. That ties in with the DRI type of thing. Again, basically the C1 zoning area is the footprint of the DRI. So the whole idea is if we're going to revitalize downtown and we get more people living downtown, that's going to encourage more people to open up a restaurant or a coffee shop or some type of a store. Because if you travel downtown recently, it looks like, well, I won't say what it looks like, okay? But I think we're up to about probably 45 to 50% of the stores are not occupied. So I think the whole idea with local law 6 is to bring about more development, encourage more people to get downtown, and obviously, hopefully spur economic development. Yes, sir.
How far up 5 and 20 East are you guys going to be going? Or allowing the...
You're talking about 5 and 20 on the east side of town?
Going towards Auburn.
Okay, so
Because I know you got a new business there at Deer Run Park.
So I mean, we're not building anything.
I know,
Right,
but
we're just changing the law.
we're changing,
that
you
would
know,
allow
like
certain
commercial
uses.
residential.
I think it goes until it hits the agricultural zoning.
Because I know Lot owns a bunch of
Yeah.
property up in there, I was just wondering, I've heard through the grapevine, maybe a housing development up through there.
That'd be nice, but I believe the way the zoning is, it has, I believe 500 feet off of 520, and it goes right along, I think it's 500 feet each way.
Okay.
On either side, and that currently straddles 520. That's not being changed, that's the way it is, that's the way it's been for some time now.
Okay,
But this just changes the allowable uses in that area.
of the property,
Yes.
okay,
Exactly.
correct.
So, right now, I can't think of too many places that this sort of thing would really work, and the other direction. But that's, the idea isn't, it's not necessary, if you're looking at what's there now, you're also looking at what could possibly be there in the future.
Okay.
So that's the thinking behind it, and I don't know that, but still in all, we're talking about residential uses, we're not talking about, opening, we're not changing things to industrial, and they're opening up to potential industrial uses, we're not opening up to things like that. We're still just talking about adding the more possible residences, and I don't see that as creating too much of an environmental impact, especially in short term or long term.
Besides the wish, the hope, right, that we have more development, bring more businesses. I mean, I don't think creating residences is necessarily more development, but we're trying to, right, for economic growth, essentially. Have we been, is there a sense that we've been turning, as a town, been turning people away, or people have been turning away because of our local codes?
Yeah, I mean, Dan can probably speak to it a lot better than I can, yeah, I mean, I think the word is that Seneca Falls is anti-development, because of our codes, our zoning codes, it's very difficult.
If we were to look at 102 Fall Street, Steve, in that case, he wants to put in, Mr. Vassal wants to put in 8 apartments in that building. Currently, our code reads, there's only allowed 1 dwelling per non-ground floor level. So the zoning board of appeals is really have a hands tied to say, yes, you can go ahead and put in 8 apartments. Parking also enters into it, but we're trying to alleviate that. In that particular case, Menzo case is offering parking over by the corporation's bank that alleviates some of it. But the whole idea of this is to revitalize downtown through zoning changes and
It sounds like it's revitalizing it from a perspective of, just creating more apartments.
we just want to have more services, more establishments, more restaurants,
That's the
more
hope,
stores, enter on the south side of Fall Street, of course.
There's 4 buildings owned by the same corporation on the south side of Fall Street, Bruce Henry Properties, which is basically Bernadette. There's 4 buildings there that have been up for sale for probably 6 years.
I realize that.
Well, what I'm saying, my point we're trying to be is that, so if I want to purchase that building, and I can only use the bottom floor for some type of a business, for it to be worthwhile financially, I'd like to develop the second and third floors to make the property more enticing and more worthwhile on my investment. So that's, part of the other, hopefully, piece of the puzzle that will.
Well, you can do that today, but we're talking about density. Small
Correct.
apartments
Correct.
versus the larger.
Well, you know as well as anybody else that, if you can only collect rent from one space, if I can get 2 apartments on the same space, it's going to, bottom line, it's going to help my bottom
What I
line.
also heard is we aren't saying you can't, you just have to go through an appeals process.
Correct. Right.
Well, and that appeals process is set up to be difficult. It's supposed to be difficult to get a use variance.
It just seemed, my only concern, and look, I would love to see every storefront built, obviously. but changing a law like this, and if you did start to create a lot of low-end apartments, or not how you control that, downtown, it's not a thing that you could undo easily, is it? I mean, some laws you can roll back. This one would be tough if you've got a building that's full of these small apartments, and then all of a sudden say, hey, they gotta be bigger. So, you know, this is one of those you can't get the toothpaste back in the tube kind of deals. So I'm a little leery of doing it, to be honest with you. Personally.
I'm just wondering, you know, look, Deer Run Park, look how long it's taken a business to go in there after all these years. Now they're building a fertilizer place. Here you've given the land away to these people and you still can't get them in here to build.
As far as population goes in general, I mean, Seneca Falls has been growing, it hasn't been a long time. I mean, in 1960s, you had 200 people graduate from the senior class. Now you're lucky if you have 100.
I graduated in 75, just for the record.
Huh?
I graduated in 75. Just
No,
you looked at me and you said the 60s. What the hell?
that's when they did. I was over saying.
You were my teacher in the 80s.
How does this, would this apply to the low level, say the canal front openings? Can apartments be placed in there?
Hold on, that's a good question, because we did try to.
Because I think there's already some.
We did try to address that, and I don't want to speak out of turn on how we did that. I believe we designated that the only areas in the C1 zone were going to be, the only areas of the C1 zone, there we go. Okay. So what we did was, in the part of it that lists the uses in the C1 zone, which is section 318, it has, under number 10, it allows for mixed-use buildings, and it says, in that district, the C1 zone, which is only downtown here, Fall Street and Bayard Street are considered the primary ground floor. So, by designated the primary ground floor, it allows the other non-primary floors to be used for residential and things like that. So, so if it's on Fall Street, the Fall Street side is the primary. So that's the one that's required to be commercial. The rest of it, you can do other things if you wish. And then on Bayard Street, it's kind of the same.
So we're here.
Same high-low.
Essentially basement apartments that
Exactly.
are accessible to them.
Exactly. So that's how we try to address that.
And is that what we want?
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that the town board be the lead agency for local law number 6. Can I have a second for that one, please? Any discussion? So carried. And I'm going to make a motion based, I'm going to make a motion that we, pardon me, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the secret report for local law number 6.
Mike, we didn't vote.
We didn't vote.
You have right for any discussions to the next one.
So have the vote tomorrow. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. Opposed? So 4-1, Steve opposed.
Okay.
And then I'm going to make a motion based on the information analysis above, any supporting documentation that result in a significant adverse environmental impact, that we accept the secret report for local law number 6. So a second for that one.
Second.
Any discussion?
I was trying to discuss it. Shut it down. So I was vote.
Well, no, we didn't get, now you, if you want to continue any discussion, I didn't shoot anything down. I mean,
Well, that's. what
I know
we were
you're
discussing. We were already up to this point. We were having discussions about it.
but the board does not have to accept the secret as it's written. So if it votes to not accept it, then.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Any other points you want to make with the secret?
Yeah, I was kind of talking about character or quality of the existing community. That particular bullet kind of catches my eye, and I think there's potential for moderate to large impact.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to discuss.
Discuss away.
Well, I was, and then you interrupted me and went right back to, you wanted to make a motion to vote on the negative declaration, that we be the lead agency.
Okay, but nothing has changed, right? So now you can discuss anything on the secret. Nothing has changed. Nothing's been approved yet.
Pat, if we change that one item to possibility of moderate or large impact, what happens?
Okay, so on that, so you've got the form there, and so you have the list of the 11 questions. The following page just says that at the top paragraph on the part 3, says for every question in part 2 that was answered, moderate to large impact may occur, or if there's a need to explain why a particular element of proposed action may or will not result in a significant adverse effect, please complete part 3. Part 3 should, in sufficient detail, identify the impact, including any measures or design elements that have been included by the project sponsor to avoid or reduce impacts. Part 3 should also explain how the lead agency determined that the impact may or will not be significant. Each potential impact should be assessed considering the setting, probability of occurring, duration, reversibility, geographic scope, and magnitude. Also consider potential for short-term, long-term impacts. So we've got the same forms for the adoption of an amendment to a zoning code as you do for, building a Walmart or building a, so a lot of them are geared towards, brick and mortar type of construction, whereas we're looking at it as the adoption of a local law.
But if we change the answer to number 3
Yeah.
to moderate or large, does the whole
Okay.
process go to
Well, no.
part
So
3,
if
or
it's-
does just that question go?
Okay, so if it's a moderate to large impact, and there's no way to address it, if it's not, if there's no mitigation noted along with the impact, then now you're left with a moderate to large impact. And the next question is, do you see the potential for any significant adverse environmental impacts? If you have a moderate to large impact sitting there without any mitigation or without any way to address it, or any reason to explain why it's not a moderate to large impact, then you really have a hard time making the determination that there's not the potential for adverse environmental impacts. So essentially, if you don't have something to address it, it becomes a positive declaration, which in turn requires a environmental impact statement, which is and by design is to be a rather involved thing. But it just for what it's worth, I do want to just point out kind of where we started. The county planning department's review of this number 6 is worth knowing. Again, it's a fairly positive review, and I just want to point out that here's what they have said. So this is the recommendation to the county planning board, and so he says, they say, in the opinion of this reviewer, the zoning change for local law 6 would have a beneficial impact on county interests as well as quality of life implemented consistently over time with other downtown improvements. Currently, there are conversions occurring and other informal housing arrangements in former motels throughout the county, but especially in the Route 5 and 20 corridor. Clarifying the conversion rules, the definition of motel and boarding house, decreasing the minimum apartment size for mixed use should help create more housing opportunities that are safe, decent, and affordable in the downtown, where people have better access to services, employment, transportation, and recreation. It is also the opinion of this review that a 600 square foot minimum apartment size is appropriate for the historic downtown block buildings in Seneca Falls that are going to be classified as mixed use. If the intent is to spur development downtown by capitalizing on the existing urban form and historic fabric, developers must be able to finance renovation projects which mean maximizing their productive space. In practice, this does not normally translate to every proposed apartment in a building being 600 square foot. It means that for spaces that could not have fit a 1,100 square foot unit due to site or building constraints can now fit a 600 square foot unit and increase their return for the entire project. For many projects, the addition of a single 600 square foot unit in a space unable to hold an 1,100 square foot unit could make or break the overall project from a financial perspective. Local zoning laws also do not overrule the New York State Uniform Fire Protection and Building Code. Just because zoning allows for the 600 square foot apartment does not automatically mean that the building code will allow it. So that was a little bit what I was trying to get at, and why I don't feel that there would be a moderate to large impact. And again, the changes in use here largely relate to residences and allowing more residences as opposed to other more intense types of uses.
Well, I was trying I understand what Steve is saying, and it makes perfect sense. But when you go back to look at the question, will the proposed action impair the quality, character, and quality of the existing community? Inaction, I think at this point, is an impairment to the character of the community, particularly Fall Street, if we can't get people to get in there to develop those properties. And if this smooths the way for them, then I think, what is it we're trying to protect? What's there now, or a fond recollection of what it used to be in the 60s and 70s?
Well, we certainly have a lot of new rental properties in this town over the past decade, right? And they're going to convert the Koch building, the church, the building behind the church, the old West Rural area. There is a lot of apartments in the downtown area. My concern is the C1 area. And again, like I say, you've seen what happened along State Street. And there's still going on State Street, but you start pushing that kind of activity on the Fall Street, and I don't know how you get the genie back in the bottle with a law like this. I don't know. I got concerns that it's slippery slope.
I do too, but I'm concerned.
But it could be.
I'm concerned that we don't do this.
If you're a late class, I get it. You got a high rent, small apartments, high density, a lot of money. This is Seneca Falls. It's not that area. A few years ago.
There might be a reason why it's not Lake Placid.
Yeah, that could be, but we also need a few ski slopes and ice skating rinks, and beautiful mountains. It could be, but it's probably never going to be a Lake Placid, but it certainly could be better than it is. Somebody brought to my attention a few years ago, and actually it was Mr. Peterson. He asked me a question about Social Security or assistance, public assistance. And he said he heard, you don't mind bringing this up, do you? Because I was on the county board, and he asked me that he understood that if you came to Seneca, if you moved from Erie County to Seneca County, and whatever the family structure was, you got a higher subsidy in Seneca County than you did in Erie County if you were on public assistance.
Yeah.
And I said, no, that's not. So I went and investigated, and absolutely that is true.
Yeah.
We're a magnet. Seneca County is essentially a magnet for the urban areas, and the state essentially designed it. I asked how they would put in a system like that. Well, the powers to be, the people that have the bigger votes, the urban areas at the state level get to control things like that. So they pay more public assistance in Seneca County than you do and pretty significantly more. So where are you going to live if you're on the low end of scale. You're gonna live in those rural, small towns out there that got nice, small, 600 square foot apartments. That's probably, well, maybe Section 8, who knows? And
I guess I would say that, obviously, you asked that question a long time ago, and obviously, if that data is information is correct.
4 years ago.
Okay, so obviously, people have come, if that's accurate, if your hypothesis is correct, then people have been coming to Seneca Falls or Seneca County for a very long time that were supposedly welfare people, they're living someplace.
They go to rural areas, correct.
Yeah,
We don't get the folks that go to Lake Placid, we get the folks that are looking for low-income housing.
Chief.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of accepting the secret report for local law number 6, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
4 to 1. Opposed, Councilman Churchill. I'd like to make a resolution authorizing the adoption of the town board of the town of Seneca Falls of local law number 6 of 2020. Do I have a second for that, please?
Second.
Discussion. With no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's opposed, 4 to 1. Councilman Churchill opposed. Yeah, local law number 7.
Number 7. Okay, again, you got the resolution to adopt on the first page, and then the secret forms, which stops at question number 1, and you have attached the new section 300-56 regarding parking. Print is there. You have the 3 pages of the parking changes which were discussed we had the full public hearing at the October meeting, and there's been no change, as there's been no change in any of these in that time. And this was reviewed by the county's planning board along with the number 6. They tacked the number 7 along with it, and again, they are recommending approval of both of these. So again, this is properly before this board. The public hearing has already been held in October. The county board has reviewed it and is recommending approval. And the same procedure would be used where you have the motion for the lead agency, the seeker review itself, and then the adoption of the resolution if the board wishes to adopt it.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that the Seneca Falls Town Board be the lead agency for local law number 7. Do you have a second for that, please? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That's carried 5-0. I'm also going to make a motion based on the information and analysis listed above and any other supporting documentation. Proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact to secret attachment. Have a second to that?
Okay.
Discussion on the secret.
Just want to make sure we all know that there are reservations to the county's discourse here about parking. I think that's something that we need to watch carefully as we go through this. There is a perceived, real or perceived, there's a shortage of downtown parking. This may help that. This may actually create problems. So we need to watch this as we go along and constantly be looking, I think, for new answers as to how to create more parking downtown.
And I no doubt about it, I don't think that, I think the reality is that parking is certainly an issue. It may be when things open up, hopefully, and development starts with the DRI, we might come back and say that zoning committee, recommends permit parking possibly as an option type of thing, and working out some arrangements with the current owner of Sanderson Ward Funeral Home. That might be some potential there as well, type of thing. But certainly, it would be something we'll have to keep a close eye on, definitely. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. So I'll make a motion that authorizes the adoption of the town board of the town of Seneca Falls for local law number 7. Can I have a second for that, please? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried.
Nikki,
Yeah.
do we have all 3 resolutions on that last one?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay, great, thank you, sorry.
So Pat, are you going to have to sign off on this as well?
So what I typically got, I do not, but typically I...
So I sign off,
So
and you're the
You sign the
signature.
secret forms.
Right.
Those signed forms stay with the town clerk, and they are, that's all the formal requirements for the secret forms.
Okay.
The laws themselves, I typically get the forms in place and get them to the town clerk, who then files them with the state.
Okay. And Nikki, these are all signed, all the signatures are signed, okay? Okay. With no more old business, let's go on to new business. Can I have a motion to approve special events?
There are none.
There are none. So I don't need a motion to approve them. We need to set a end of the year meeting to pay the bills. Usually that happens between Christmas and New Year's. If you have your calendars handy, I think we usually do that around noon, don't we, Nikki? Or
We can do it at noon, yes, and we can do it the later in the month, the better.
I'm open for anybody's suggestion.
We do
In worst case scenario, we don't need 5. We can, as long as we have a quorum, 3 is good.
28th is Monday, 29th, Tuesday, 30th is Wednesday. Are certain nights out or certain days out?
You're good on the 28th, Doug?
I'm, depending on time, I can probably do any of this.
And Nikki's bills will be ready to go by the 28th?
Let's go for the 29th.
Close to the 29th? So you're probably looking better at the 3rd?
The closer to the end of the year, the better, so we can get more bills in.
Okay, so you want to wait to the 30th? Does that work for you?
I don't care. 29th or 30th is fine. 30th would be better.
Thursday's a Wednesday. Can we make it? You're okay, Dave? We make a 12 o'clock meeting on Thursday, the 30th, Wednesday, the 30th?
Wednesday the 30th at noon.
Doug, can you make it?
Yep.
I can make it. You can make it, Steve? Okay. I know Don won't be there, but we'll have a quorum. Okay. So let's, I'll set Nikki.
Like, will that be here or will you be over at town hall?
We'll be in the town hall.
Okay.
Okay. We can have alcoholic beverages over there. We can't have them here.
I'm listening.
Always thinking.
Always thinking, Jim.
What'd you say about Dave Shaw not being here?
Huh? Okay. 12 o'clock. Hey. Okay. Let's see, where are we The next highway approval,
We
Chair?
don't have anything for that.
We don't have anything for
No,
that.
it's
Okay.
just that he explained.
Do we have to make, do we have to motion or anything?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the shared services agreement with the Department of Transportation. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
This is pretty routine. It's happened numerous times, but Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, that's, New York State DOT sends us this every year. It's just a shared service agreement. They bumped it from 10,000 to 25,000, but that's just a number they put out there. That's, if they need help, then we can go help them, and vice versa. And they do that every year at this time.
And the number is just a threshold that would be required before you need any type of more formal approval.
Correct.
And we've done this previously.
Every year.
Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So carried. I need a motion for budget approval for Seneca Falls Development Corporation.
So,
I will second that. This is related to the letter from Greg Zellers, the director. We talked about this, we added this to the budget back at the last budget workshop and adoption of the budget. This reflects the increase in compatible to other town employees. So that's what this is for. Okay. So, any discussion?
So this is for 2021 or 2020?
2020. This is for this year, and this is their budgetary allotment for 2020.
So we pay them at the end of the year?
It's just, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think it's set up to be at the end of the year, it just happens to be the end of the year, but we want to get it done. It is 2020 funds, it's the 2020 operating funds for the SFDC. We want to get this done before the end of the fiscal year. So you'll see it again in 2021 at some point.
Okay.
That group's operating funds for the year.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Seneca Falls, rebate water. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what this is. I know what it is, but I'm saying, do we need a,
Yes, we have to have a motion to authorize the county to put to relevy the delinquent water and sewer bills onto the town,
to the town tax? Then I will make a motion that the relevy delinquent water and sewer bills on town taxes be permitted from Seneca County. Can I have a second for that, please?
Second.
Thank you. Yeah, basically, these are people who are behind in their water bills, and it now goes to be put on their tax bill levied in January. Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Are these in alphabetical order?
No.
Gotta make sure I don't see my name in it. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to provide the 2020 contribution to the Seneca Falls Historical Society. As you can see in your packet, you invoice for the year and attached budget. Last year, the board agreed to contribute $15,000 to the Historical Society. This is basically the invoice for that payment. Any questions, or do we have a second on that one?
No.
No. Have a second on that, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on that? And if you remember, I think we agreed to fund it at $7,000 for 2021. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. I'm going to make a resolution. Highway Department would like to purchase a 2021 CB 515 International dump truck, all-season box, and new plow equipment from Regional International Corporation for the sum of $130,000. This truck will replace the 2012 F550. The 2012 will be sold at Auction International, and now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby authorize the purchase of this vehicle. Can I have a second for this, please?
Second.
Any discussion? This is something that we've approved in the 2021 budget. Jim, it's about a year out for
Yeah,
delivery.
the truck's a year out. If we order it now, we can save 2% on the total price. by doing it this way. If we wait and bring this up in January, then we'll have to pay the extra.
The 2% is significant at $130,000.
Do we have to pay for it this year?
Well, it'll be towards the end of the year, Steve, probably, the truck won't be delivered probably till November, next November.
But do we have to pay for it up front to get that 2%?
No,
When you order, you don't have to pay for it.
no, we pay for it when it's delivered.
Delivered. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I am going to make a resolution that the Highway Department would like to purchase a 2021 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. There were 3 bids, Van Mortal, one from Bill Cram, and one from Tradition Chevy Buick. Whereas this truck will replace the 2013 Chevy we now have. The 2013 will be sold at Auction International. The new truck arrives pending board approval. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorize the purchase of a 2021 Silverado 4-wheel drive from Van Mortal Chevrolet as the low bidder at $37,983. Have a second for that?
Second.
Discussion.
And again, this would be paid for in.
Well, this truck's about 20 to 25 weeks out, so on delivery we will do it.
All right, thank you.
Jim,
Yes,
you solicit the bids,
yes, I went out and got this.
and when you get the bids in, do you go back to a local business like Bill Cram Chevrolet and say, guys, you're $4,000 over?
I did that, the last time we bought a truck, and they said this is the price that, they're gonna do it. I did not do it on this one with, Bill Cram. I always tell them, give me your low price, because the board's gonna go with the low price. That's what I tell them.
They're sealed bids, so that's,
I'm sorry, Dave?
they're sealed bids, so.
Yeah. I think you're sealed, I don't know, are they sealed?
No, they just give them to me, you know, I win,
Yeah.
just like I would any dealership.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a, you know. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. I would like to make a resolution. The town board realizes that the laborer Joseph McLean has received his D-Water operator's license and has received his CDLB driver's license. Resolved that the town board hereby authorize the promotion of Joe McLean to the title of water and sewer maintainer as of today at the starting rate of $22.70 per hour. This was anticipated and budgeted for in 2020. Can I have a second for that, please?
Second.
Mr. Chulo? You still awake?
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Chulo?
What's his current rate?
He's a laborer, and I believe it's $18.50. And the starting rate for maintainers is what he's starting at.
And Joe, this is just to kind of explain to people that we're not just doling out the money, but basically we have a matrix that we follow, and as our people become trained and get higher levels of education, and
He obtained his water license and his CDL-B license, so now he can drive our CDL trucks. He can now, being a maintainer, he can operate our equipment. As a laborer, you can't operate or drive CDL or any skid steers or anything.
So will we be asked to backfill that laborer's position?
No. We start people at labor if they're not qualified to be maintainers when they start. So no, there's no backfill because you can work, you can work below your grade, you can't work above your grade. So you can't ask somebody to do something they're not being paid for.
So we had this conversation.
No, I understand it, but do we need to have everybody qualified to do everything?
You want everybody to be able to do everything. I want to
Oh,
pick out at
that's
2 o'clock.
pretty-
At 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't want to pick out, oh, I can't send him to go get a truck. because-
That's true, but
Right.
I mean, that could be a pretty expensive option too, right? If everybody's getting paid top dollar, And,
Well, that's not top dollar, but.
well, whatever, but I mean, that's where they're ultimately going, and, but yet somebody's just fulfilling the laborers, really all we need are a few laborers.
No, we need maintainers. We don't need laborers. And
You don't need laborers.
We need maintainers.
Okay. All right.
So we can start people as laborers, see how they progress, and if they don't, they phase out, you hire another one, or you hire maintainers right off the bat.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried. I am going to make a motion that the town board of Seneca Falls, that the retention and disposition schedule for New York local law government records LGS-1 issued pursuant to Article 57-8 of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law and containing legal minimum retention record periods for local government records is hereby adopted for use by all officers in legally disposing of valueless records listed herein. Further resolved that in accordance with Article 57A, only these records will be disposed of that are described in retention and disposition schedule for New York local government, and after they've met the minimum retention periods, and only those records will be disposed of that do not have sufficient administrative, fiscal, legal, or historical value to merit retention beyond established legal minimum records.
What's the purpose of this resolution?
It's, we are, by law, need it, okay? If we don't have something, well, Emily, you explain it better than I can.
Sure, and, so this is.
Oh, your mom.
Oh, sorry, so it was cold in here.
Well, we turned it off a little bit because.
Are you
the
trying to save
band-
money? So New York State Archives, and the clerk here works with them on the records as the records retention, as the records manager. The New York State Archives is issuing a new retention schedule for all New York State municipalities to follow starting January 1st. A new records retention schedule allows certain, is the schedule that discusses what records are held for how long and the process of how they can be disposed of. If the town does not pass this resolution, then because they will not be in compliance with the new regulations, and because they're not in compliance with the new regulations, they have to save all their records. There could be a lot of consequences where you are now unable to dispose of your records, even though the records retention has elapsed because you're not under the new schedule. And it has to be accepted, the municipalities have to accept this resolution prior to January 1st.
I guess where I'm confused is, I mean, if it's a state regulation, it's a state regulation. I guess I don't know why we have to pass a resolution.
They asked all community.
It's redundant.
It absolutely is, but that's, and they're not even keeping track of who's passed it. They're not checking in. I asked them if they had a list so I could go out and remind communities to do it, because, you know, we're running out of time, and all these small municipalities will be negatively impacted if they didn't catch it, do the resolution, get it on the agenda, and pass it.
All right,
And on top of all this, there's 414 pages of record retention verbiage. 414 pages.
And what we will
And
do.
that doesn't count, this is completely separate from court record. There's a whole other entity. And Nikki is the records manager for the town of Seneca Falls. So we obviously have a big job on our hands.
And we'll be working with and Nikki and I and the supervisor have already had a meeting with, there's a New York State, a regional representative from New York State Archives who is able to help the town. And we've had an initial call with him, which is how we started setting up the next steps. And we'll continue working with this representative every step of the way. So we know that they're giving us permission to do this and they're recommending the next step and that it's legal, and we won't make a step without them. And we don't want to, because when we then apply for grant money, we want to be in their great graces, not even good graces, but their great graces.
thank you.
Yep, of course.
Any further discussion?
You need a second on that one. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Make a motion that, well, we waive the 30-day advance notice to municipalities for liquor license application, Red Brick Pub, 57 Wall Street. Have a second for that, please?
Second.
You have a request from a law firm, and this would be a business, a former business established in downtown. I believe this is Red's. It's been sold, and to try to expedite their liquor license. Any questions or further discussion?
Yeah, I just, we did one of these last month, and I asked them, it seems like,
This is our fourth one this year, I think.
Yeah.
and nobody, this 30-day period, as I understand it, is for public comment. And if these places just routinely, whether there really is a hardship or not, part of the process is to come after the town to bypass the 30 days, and not doing your own, we're not being fair to the people. There may not be any comment about this one other than I didn't know when it was closed. But it seems like for us to routinely approve bypassing this 30-day public comment period is doing our town a disservice. And I just,
The public comment is to who, the town,
about the approval.
ABC board, New York State?
Well, the notice comes to the town, so, and there is typically a requirement that it appear in published as well. But, so the notice comes to the town. If the town, you know, if you wanted to seek comments, you certainly can do so. I have no, I mean, you bring up the most recent one we did, that was over 30 days ago. You know, they're not open. They don't look like they're ready to be open anytime soon either. Is there a need for this? I don't know. It's pretty short on information. Reds, maybe, because that was, you know, that was shut down in the summer, and it's probably ready to go. I don't know.
And I understand that, you know, last part, they've been closed because of the pandemic, and they want to get it open. It seems like it's a routine part of the process is now go ask the town to bypass the 30 days. It's just routine, they'll accept it, and we'll move on.
Where I'm struggling is, so you have a public hearing, public comment, whatever. Is there a decision that's made after that?
No.
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 So what's the purpose of a public comment, public hearing?
It's to publicize just the fact that they are applying for the license, and that if anybody has a problem with it, to speak up or contact the Alcohol Beverage Control Board, or approach the town and ask them to do something. There's no formal requirement for a public hearing or any other action. There's no requirement that you take action on this right now. So
it's just an opportunity, it's given the public to react if they so choose.
Yes. So this came to, the date on this is November 19th. So if the board does absolutely nothing, they are not able to get their liquor license until December 19th. There you go, that's the...
I guess I don't understand.
It sounds like to me it's the same, I guess it's the New York State covering their backside with record retention and allowing people 30 days to comment. So would we be required to take out some advertisement saying that you could make a comment? So the only way people would know if they were here at this public meeting?
Yep, yes.
Or they read it.
Or if they read the newspaper
They read it,
and they want to do something.
It's been a business in town.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You're opposed, right,
Yeah,
John?
we didn't ask.
Anybody opposed?
Opposed?
That's carried 4-1. Please note that Councilman Hickory is opposed. Okay. We have a resolution introducing proposed local law and providing for a public hearing. This local law would be dealing with, local law to amend the code of town of Seneca Falls to increase the sliding scale income eligibility for senior citizens under section 467 of the real property tax. Resolved that the town board will hold a public hearing on said proposed law at the Seneca Falls Community Center, 35 Water Street, Seneca Falls, New York, at 6 p.m. on January 5th. Be it further resolved, the town clerk publish a cause to be published a notice of said public hearing in the official newspaper in the town at least 5 days prior to January 5th. Can I have a second for this resolution?
Second.
Thank you. This basically is town of Seneca Falls, with the encouragement of other municipalities and school districts, is to provide a better exemption for our senior citizens. The scale hasn't been attached, I don't think, for 6-7 years. It also will help our people who get exemptions from being disabled.
That's next.
That's
Oh, that one's next, okay.
So right now there is, I mean, this is in the town code, and again, this comes from the state real property tax law. It is in the town code, and it has been there since, I want to say, 2007. So this is worded as an amendment to the existing town code section, and on the text of the law that you have, that first paragraph is the same as it appears now. The only change is that this will be to be consistent with the county. That the numbers are consistent with the county. That's what is being done in the first place. They are not having to take effect until March, until after the taxable status date. So this is not going to this will not affect the town and county tax bill that's coming out in 31 days. It'll be 2022,
Right.
where this will take effect.
But all we're doing right now is setting a public hearing.
Setting it up for next month.
Do we have
January.
somehow, what if we're not meeting live in person on January 5th?
We can still have public hearings and
We'll figure that out like we did last time.
Like we did last time.
Does the resolution
Well-
have to give?
No, but if we were going to do that, the public notice would, we would have whatever format it's going to be, and we have information, if it's a call in or something like that, we put the number right in it. Yeah, we've done that before.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. Our second resolution related to this, I'd like to make a resolution whereas section 266-8 through 12 of the Seneca Falls Town Code provides for limited exemptions from real property taxes for persons with disabilities. And again, this would be addressed at a town board meeting, or should be a public board meeting on January 5th, 2021. For a second for that one, please.
Second.
And Pat, this just covers.
This is the same
first
one.
covers
That's
senior
different.
citizens, this one covered.
It's a different section of the state law and different sections of our code. But it's the same, the numbers are exactly the same.
Any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I am going to make a resolution introducing proposed local law number 3. And providing for a public hearing, whereas the town of Seneca Falls participates in the National Flood Insurance Program, which requires the town to have a local law to address flood drainage prevention. Be it resolved that the town board will hold a public hearing on said proposal of local law of Seneca Falls Community Center on January 5th, 2021. Town clerk will make it public notice within 5 days. Can I have a second for this one?
Second.
Okay.
So this is, the DEC contacted the town and kind of,
Hollered at me on numerous occasions because it wasn't done
Yes, it wasn't.
previously.
It wasn't done previously. Basically, after the dissolution of the village, the town code should have been updated to include the flood areas of the village, and to, make sure that folks in those areas are eligible for flood insurance and things like that. So hopefully this will be, we'll get it before the DEC does anything that they've been threatening to do. So we should be good.
Any further questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Make a motion to change employee contribution for insurance benefits, whereas Section 807 of the Town of Seneca Falls Insurance Handbook stipulates that the amount of insurance premium or employee of elected officials required to contribute toward insurance or dental coverage is subject to change by resolution, and whereas the town board is required to provide a 3-month written notice, and whereas the Seneca Falls Board does hereby increase the employee contribution rate for its insurance premium to 15% across all policies. Could I have a second for this, please?
Second.
Discussion, this kind of makes it official, something the board has decided in budget meetings that the contribution will go to 15% versus 5%. I'm sorry, 15% versus 10%. I just want to share some information before you vote, okay? The overall savings for this is $14,858. Okay? The average town employee who has the gold plan, their increased insurance is going to go up. Their increase this year will be $585. The average single person on the platinum plan, their contribution is going to cost them $263 per single. When this was being discussed, the data that we were given was in the $55,000 range in savings. Okay, that was calculated incorrectly, but calculated including the police department union, which this has no impact on at all. Okay. Obviously, the police union contract will stay the same, and the police department will still be contributing the regular membership. Okay. Question? Comment?
I only saved 15,000.
I'm sorry?
I saved only 15,000.
$14,858. I would like to make an amendment to this resolution that we leave the health insurance contribution status quo as per 2020 language. And yeah, that's my amendment.
I'll second.
Second. So this amendment, again, based on the fact that it's $14,858. That's money, don't get me wrong. But I would like to, as we go into negotiations with the police union in 2021, I would like to try to keep things as consistent as we can for all our employees. And I know there's a discrepancy in pay increases, but for the insurance part of it, that's just my personal opinion. If we're talking about $56,000, that's a completely different chunk of change. And we give money away to this person, that charitable organization, and I hate to try to budget things based on the backs of our employees. Don't get me wrong, and I think our employees need to understand that we are paying too much for their health insurance. And one of the things that I'll be hoping to get some approval on as we move forward, that we change those things especially for new employees. But that's my reasoning behind the amendment.
As you started to speak, I was having the same thought about new employees. Leaving it where it is for the time being for existing employees, bringing in new employees at a more reasonable rate that's more in keeping with.
And again, I'm not saying that,
Yeah, we're paying out.
right, and I'm not saying 85 is unreasonable by any means, okay? No, I don't want to confuse people. I know it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. It's just the inconsistencies with the police and the other employees. And,
Well, to give you a bargaining platform when you go into negotiations with the PD to say, look, all our other employees are 85, you're not going to be able to save them. And when we get done with this resolution, I'd like to make a resolution, we don't have any budget workshops this coming year. Because they're a waste of time. All we're doing, we roll back everything we did. That's my only comment.
Anyway, any other further discussion? So there's an amendment to this resolution, and seconded. So you're voting on the amendment to keep the health insurance status quo as it is written in as for 2020.
But you don't have to amend it, we just withdraw this motion.
No, it's in the budget. We've already budgeted, so you got to do something to it.
Mike, have we checked into other policies, like?
I'm sorry?
Have we checked into other policies, other insurance, you know, like a different carrier from what
Yes.
we have right now?
Well, the different carriers, I mean, there are different plans, but I have a meeting Friday with the county to investigate the consortium that the county is in, where you know, insurance rates are based on a number of participants and so forth, and you got county employees, and then we can join the county employees and other municipalities, and you have a greater buying power for insurance. So I am starting that investigation with the county, with the personnel director on Friday, type of thing. So I hope to have some better information for you and see if we can find a less expensive route, type of thing. Because insurance is very, very, very expensive, very expensive. We'll be talking about that later on, but very.
But the open enrollment will be over before that.
We've had the open enrollment was extended to December 10th because there was a lot of misinformation, different, you know, how much it was going to cost employees, how much the policy went up. There was some misinformation. Our broker had some meetings with our employees. Like any other thing else, some employees, you know, not all of them attend. And some information was handed out originally that was incorrect, and then there's some confusion there. So we spent the better part of today trying to figure out so everybody's getting the same information. And then I sent out today all the correct information, okay, based on the 15% going up type of thing, okay? So it's all settled down type of thing. And I've got them to extend the open enrollment until December 10th. Because today was the last day. Okay?
Where would the revenue come from to towards that 14,000?
I'm sorry.
Where would the revenue come from?
Well, it would be,
Increase next year's budget
yeah,
by 14,000.
it's not budgeted, so it would be a transfer out of your general fund into the,
Right.
out of the reserve into the general fund.
Contingency?
Contingency.
Landfill.
Mr. Conley.
Any other questions? Okay, so again, we have a motion for an amendment. We have a second. All in favor of the motion to leave the insurance as it has been for 2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, so we have, we're going to take a roll call.
Okay.
Please.
Ferrara?
Yes.
Ron? No. Doug?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
No.
So that motion was carried 3-2. So, Jack, do I have to do anything else with this resolution? Amendment.
So now you have
The amendment was
the
carried.
amendment was carried, so now you have to adopt the whole thing.
Okay. So, resolution, but I don't have to have a change in employee contributions, right? So I can change the resolution?
Well, will you change that part where it says the increase the premium?
Right.
You now have it that it remains at the 2020.
2020 rates, 2020 contribution.
Yes.
So I'm going to make a motion that the town Seneca Falls board hereby leave the employee contribution at 2020 rates of contribution. Could I have a second for that? Please. Further discussion.
Second.
David. Any further discussion? We have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Opposed?
So, Councilman DeLeus, yes. Councilman Ferrara, yes. Councilman Avery, yes. Councilman Churchill, no. Councilman Dyson, no. So just to be clear, our town employees, non-union employees, will contribute 10% of their health insurance premiums for 2021. Sorry.
What we have to do now, not literally now, but now to change the contribution rate for new employees.
We're going to go into executive session tonight, and I have a motion going into executive session. And we can talk about that, okay? Because it relates to the executive session. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint a part-time zoning officer. Town of Seneca Falls board wishes to fill the vacancy of code enforcement officer position of part-time zoning officer due to resignation. The current code officer is out due to health issues and uncertain as to when he will be able to return to work. Be it resolved that the town board does hereby appoint Kim Rose as part-time zoning officer. Kim is currently substituting office at 20 hours a week. She'll begin her permanent tenure as part-time zoning officer on 1/1/21. Since it's unclear as when that will happen, as the zoning enforcement officer will return, this appointment will be 20 hours per week until further notice. Have a second for that, please?
Second.
Discussion, we cut this position in the assessor's office for the assistant assessor to half-time, and then we had a resignation as a part-time zoning officer. We took in applications, and we are recommending that we appoint Kim in that position. And I will say that, as I said earlier tonight, Kim has done an outstanding job in filling in the absence of our current zoning officer due to a health issue. So that's what this resolution is for. Any questions?
So we're transferring money from the contingency account, but it sounded like what was laid out is we're cutting the one position in the assessor's office to half-time.
Yeah. Steve, I got to be honest with you, I don't know how this happens. I mean, why she's taken, this is from Bev. I don't know how, I don't know the financial part of it as far as why it comes out of the contingency budget. And, you know, in the 2021 budget, the position has been cut to the part-time, or I'm sorry, the assistant assessor has been cut out of the budget. So I don't know if she didn't budget money for the part-time zoning officer or not. I'm assuming she didn't budget for that. I don't know that for sure.
We take a lot of money out of contingency. We aren't even in 2021 yet. We're already moving money from contingency. Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? you. Next resolution I'm going to make is to establish a capital fund H3 for the custom artwork delivery and installation cost for the statute of rules of change. The town of Seneca Falls has reached $274,000 from the Women's Suffrage Centennial Commission for custom artwork delivery and installation for the statute. You have a second for this?
Second.
Thank you. This is basically just establishing the fund. We've talked about this. The statute is in the process of being created. The statute hopefully will be done this summer. And basically now all the expenses related to the statute, the town of Seneca Falls pays from out of this fund of $274,000. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So carried. I'm sorry, anybody opposed? So carried. Our next resolution is the town board has requested the highway department to add a guardrail along Blackwood Road at the curve of ITT, whereas this is nothing, there's nothing budgeted to accomplish this work. Okay, Steve. Now therefore be resolved, the town board hereby modify the 2020 budget to accomplish adding this guardrail along Blackwood Road by a transfer from general A fund contingency by an increase in interfund transfer to fund the modification in the amount of $5,900. We received 2 bids on this. The lowest one is $5,900. Have a second for this one?
Second.
Joe and Jim, you want to arm wrestle?
I guess on a corner of Bridge in Blackwood, got a fire hydrant right there. It's been hit several times. So Joe's concern was we put a guardrail up there. We were thinking about moving the hydrant, but if we do that, then they're gonna, if they do go off the road, they're gonna go right into the transfer station with Goulds pumps. It's a safety issue. So Joe went out and got the 2 bids from Alden Lee and Phelps, what was it, Phelps?
I thought it was 5,300.
5360.
5360, yeah. I don't know why you put it in
That wrote that resolution.
Yeah.
So, but no, that was the reason being, a lot of cars went off right there. We did put up some barriers there around the hydrant so it wouldn't hit. They hit the barrier and went into the fire hydrant anyways, and it leaked. So.
It's been hit 3 times in the last 5 years. It's like a magnet.
What about a speed bump in front of my driveway on George Road? You got horse crossing signs, somebody's gonna kill my animals. They go by my house 80 miles an hour. The cops are there, but they're pointing the wrong way.
I didn't forget you. I'm working on
George Road, I just need 1 speed bump in front of my house. I own property across the street I pay taxes on, and my property on 5 and 20 and George Road.
I know, but this is a different issue, but
Yeah, but you're talking about a guardrail down here.
I know, but what I want to say about your issue is it's been turned over, we're waiting on the New York State Department of Transportation. They've done their evaluation, and we're going to lower the speed limit if they give us permission to do that. Okay? I haven't forgotten you, honest.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when you deal with other government agencies,
I know, but it's not gonna cost you $5,000.
no. Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to offer amendments that we change the amount in the resolution to $5,360.
Second that. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried. We have that now, so the resolution received for the amount of $5,360. I need a second for that, please.
Second.
And any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. I have a motion to accept sewer credits for the month of November, totaling $6,222.24. Have a second for that, please?
Second.
Discussion.
We're getting taken advantage of.
What happened?
I don't know what happens, but basically our policy is that if a resident or a business says, looking at their average payment for the quarter over a period of quarters, and for some reason it's extremely high, they come in, plead their case, and it's not because of usage or so forth, it's because of some type of leak, a running toilet, something of that nature, then historically the town has, issued these credits. Doug and I, and hopefully sometime in 2021, will be coming to you about upgrading our water meters and our technology, something we'll be looking at, type of thing. But with the upgrades in technology, you would never have to issue a credit anymore, because the system would detect a leak instantaneously.
Oh, no.
Or
Everybody's got Wi-Fi in their house, so if you have a meter that connects to their Wi-Fi, you can get real-time data. Right, Joe?
Yep.
Well, so that's the idea, is that any aberration in water would be immediately caught by the office.
Caught by the office.
Because the meter would actually send that data. So you wouldn't have $1,800 in leaky toilets.
You should. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. That's carried. Any other new business? Any other new business, board members? Mr. Seneca, please.
Yeah. I know the horse has left the barn already on this, but I do.
The toothpaste is out.
Huh? What's that?
Now the horse is out.
Yeah, the horse is gone. I now and then I do park in downtown Seneca Falls. And local law number 6, the only thing I want to say about it is that Pat was right. I was the chairman of the zoning board when they did the building at the arcade. The guy wanted to put in 23 apartment units there. Obviously, we were opposed to it because where were people going to park 23 units? So we limited it to him for parking the 9 units in the back of the building in the caged-in area that he had. So I don't have a copy of the local law, but what I'm wondering is, okay, now we've taken it out of the hands of the zoning people, so anybody that has a building can divide up their building into 600 square feet blocks and put apartments in there. Is there something in the local law that deals with where are these people going to park? That's the big problem, is parking. There is no parking in Seneca Falls. So, if you've got 20 more apartments and don't get me wrong, it's a bad thing in one sense that who wants to put a business in there if I can't come and park and go in there? If they're all apartment people parking in the road, and then I can't go down and use the new business that supposedly started on the bottom floor. I'm just saying, where is the people going to park? As long as it's in the local law that, gee, if you make 5 apartments, you got to have 5 parking places somewhere, I'm all done talking. I don't know what I'm talking about. So that's the main thing when you do these things is where are people going to park? We don't have parking. There is no parking. And who's going to let you park in? Sometimes I got to park in the Gould Hotel parking lot to go to the Summit Credit Union. So I'm just saying, 20 more apartments downtown Seneca Falls, that's 20 more cars, maybe more, if 2 people each have a car, could be 40 cars. That's all. Maybe it's addressed in the local law. I don't have it, so I don't know. But I just wanted to comment on it, so the horse is out of the barn.
The horse is out of the barn.
Horse is out.
Absolutely. I think Doug said, and I agree, we would probably have to, it would be a really good thing if we had this major parking issue and downtown became so overdeveloped that we had a really big time parking issue. You gotta remember, we're kind of spoiled in Seneca Falls, I can't go any place, in Geneva included, where I can park my car and I gotta walk 3 blocks.
I don't mind walking. I walk every day. But I'm saying,
if you build it, they might come.
Take that 9.7 million and build a 4-story parking garage somewhere. Use your power of taking the land you know, and building something that you need, a municipal parking 4-story thing, just like Ithaca did and some other communities did. You gotta build, you gotta go from the ground and go up and build a parking area. That's what you ought to use that $9.7 million for, build some parking, then you'll get some business here. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? Dave voted yes. Just a couple of announcements. If you haven't noticed, there's a tree on 12th Street in Katy Stanton Park that a community member has donated, Jim Cooley. There's going to be a very small tree lighting ceremony on Saturday at 5 o'clock. I think Chief Ventura, you're plugging it in?
Yes, sir.
This Saturday at 5 o'clock?
7.
Pardon?
I was told 7.
I'm sorry.
I might be late. I was told 7 o'clock.
I don't know.
Maybe the joke's on me.
No, is it 7?
That's what I was told.
Okay, so 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock, I think Gary Graziano and his organization might be, I don't know. It's just, anyway, the tree is there. We went through the proper channels and so forth. It's, a contribution for somebody who loves Seneca Falls and loves Christmas. At this time, in this situation, God bless them, and hopefully it'll bring a smile to somebody's face. Okay? Also, we need to make a decision. Before I do that, so I forgot who asked me, but I've been investigating some type of a notification system to our citizens about an emergency situation like boil water or water main break or this, that, and the other thing. Somebody asked me to do that. Okay? We've done that, and remarkably enough, it's not that expensive. It's about $3,000 to have us online, provide an app to our citizens, and to provide that information. So I will bring you the information for January, and you can take a look at that and see what you think about that. How we have to come out of the contingency budget.
It all does.
Okay. And again, we have to make a decision about January. You want to see how it goes? You want to go back to no public, just our directors and so forth? Open discussion.
I made some comments to you the other day that having the reorganization meeting plus these 3 public hearings, that would be very difficult not to do it in the room together.
I concur.
So, I suggest that we go to the gym. You said the acoustics are bad. We can fix the sound system. We can do stuff with that. Maybe we can't be here, but for that meeting, I can't see us being functional.
It'd be difficult. Okay. So anybody else have any comments? So we're good to go on January 5th.
Do you want to go in the gym or in the...
With the heat working better than it is?
Well, it's hard because I got requests for that because people couldn't hear you in the back.
You have some verbiage for me?
So, before you go in the gym or in this room?
Here. I don't think it's going to be the public hearings are not going to be like knocking the door down. That gives senior citizens a break.
You got it.
Never know. So we talked about the potential for an executive session. In order to do that, a motion to go to executive session to discuss personnel matters that relate to specific employees and also prospective employees will be appropriate.
I make that motion. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. All in favor? There'll be no action taken after the executive session, so that'll be the end of it. Okay. Guys, if you want to, board members, can we